if you got to go choke a puppy, I got to choke a kid. No worries. We'll get through this. What's going on, gang? Coach Joe here to talk to you a little bit about Performa Sleep. Guys, Performa Sleep has worked with industry experts to develop the ideal mattress for athletes and active people looking to improve their performance through better sleep. Guys, Performa Sleep is proud to say that every single Performa Sleep mattress is made in the USA and ships quickly from their warehouse to your door, and hopefully gets in your bedroom pretty quick. Guys, I sleep on a Performa Sleep mattress. I absolutely love it. It's the only mattress on the market with copper cool technology, and I can say right now, as a guy who sleeps hot, who sleeps with the sweats, I don't anymore in my Performa Sleep mattress. Check it out. Folks like myself, like Dr. Danny, Lauren Fisher, Emily Bridgers, Scott Panchek are on the Performa Sleep mattress, and I have nothing but great things to say about it. So head over to performasleep.com and click their big red Buy Now button and enjoy.
What's up, gang? Doc and Jock podcast. Doc Danny, Coach Joe, and the other guy is Dr. Charlie Weingroff. We're very lucky to have him on. He's a physical therapist, strength coach, has tons of experience working with pro teams, military, national teams, currently still seeing patients, not just writing about seeing patients in New York City. And we want to have him on to talk about training because he fits this hybrid role of a PT, strength coach that we like to talk and learn from. So we're very, very, very lucky to have him on. So, Charlie, thanks so much for jumping on with us.
You got it. What's up, guys?
How much you got some dogs in the background?
Oh, I didn't think that would be able to get picked up. Yeah.
What kind of dog is that? What kind of dog is that?
Is a puggle. He's half pug, half beagle.
Sounds like
nice.
a killer.
Well, I was gonna say I got 3 kids in the background who might wise up. So if you got to go choke a puppy, I got to choke a kid. No worries. We'll get through this. So hey, cool. A neat question for a guy like you with the training background, the powerlifting background, the sports background. Give a shout out to like some coaches, a high school coach, a middle school coach, the kind of initial coach that doesn't get the credit on a platform like this or on TV or in the media for just kind of putting you on the right path to kind of training and kicking ass and getting into this whole game.
I mean, it's not to diminish my coaches in high school and college.
Sure.
Particularly in baseball, but I don't know that they just instilled like an impact on me about winning and how to just not lose. But I think the one coach for me personally that more relates to what I do now is because I think there's this and a lot of it is legitimate, but there's definitely a swell that powerlifting is like not ideal for athletic development, and while indeed it has many holes, but you could do a hell of a lot worse. And Bill Crawford was my first legitimate powerlifting coach. Now that kind of maybe leads me to being born on second or third base when you have the arguably the greatest bench presser to ever live is your person that kind of brings you into powerlifting. Bill's the first one to ever bench press 750, and I look back on my training and a lot of the things that I feel like I sort of understand, and as someone like him, because of the. Yeah, for a long while, if you were in powerlifting, it was Columbus, Ohio, it was Omaha, or it was Lake George, New York. And a lot of people seem to obviously know about Louis and Westside a lot more. If I'm not mistaken, the way the technique that Westside uses to bench is what Bill showed Louis several years ago. So it's you don't hear a lot about Bill because he got out of powerlifting, and there's not a lot of people that really live in Lake George. So I think that's an interesting question, and I'm just always so like he's one of the greatest coaches. I think like some of the young athletes that I talk to. Actually, I have one right now who's dealing with some really crazy nonsense at his school, and we're trying to analyze the situation. And the coach is just giving him a hard time. And I said, the coach should be somebody who, like, if you don't win, it's like you feel bad because the coach, you almost like you let him down in a very like organic and honest way. And I remember the first time I went for 5 on the bench, and they gave me a 4th lift that obviously wouldn't have counted. And he's like, do you want to go for it again? Because I had missed it twice. I've done it many times thereafter. Don't worry, but and I didn't get it. But I felt bad, And I remember like I wanted to do that, not for me, because I had my 3 shots and whatever. But Bill's just a fantastic coach, and also a lot of these powerlifting guys are. Bill has his master's from Boston University and played Division I football. Also played professional football, not in the NFL. I mean, these are look. You can do a hell of a lot worse than a traditional powerlifting program, and obviously there's a lot of qualities that are not developed through that. But Bill Crawford would be an interesting answer to that question, and not one that I get asked a lot of.
Awesome.
Well, I completely agree with the intelligence level of powerlifting coaches. I mean, we talked to Chris Duffin recently, and Joe and I have had some time up in the compound with Donnie Thompson, and it's just they're impressive. They're extremely, extremely smart, and you're right. I mean, those movements are a great way to develop strength and gross movement patterns. Now, aside from the powerlifting coaches that you've had, I know you're a practitioner as well, and you've had some influences from other practitioners, other groups. Which ones do you feel like are most influential to you, and something, if there's a practitioner listening to this, worth spending their time trying to go down those roads?
That's pretty easy. Gray Cook and Mike Boyle. You guys aren't talking to me without what those guys have done for me, but just to develop right-left barriers to a train of thought. There's no one that has influenced the degree of Coach and Gray. Obviously there's a lot of others that along my professional career that I've been greatly in debt to, such as Pavel Tsatsouline comes to mind, Louis comes to mind. From a manual therapy standpoint, it's hard to say that there's one person, but just the understanding of things and the friends that I made, and it's an interesting thing when you have so many people that you call friends, but you also learn from them, and it makes it, again, I seem to use that word organic a lot recently, not because I eat all organic, but I try. But Gray and Greg Rose, I'm sure it's like you're asking me to accept an award at some kind of Emmys, and I got this laundry list of people, so I got to make sure I don't forget anybody. But I can very, very easily say that Gray and Boyle are without a doubt the highest influence, and a lot of it, in terms of other people following their message. It's just a very global philosophical message where, these guys have stuff that they do, but there's an overarching plan that you could do whatever it is that you want if you fill in these highly profitable, if you will, principles that both of these individuals have instilled in me and instilled in their messages.
Cool. And this idea of these highly profitable principles, it's an interesting one. And, in a recent conversation we had, the topic came up where the pro coaches were saying, man, if we could get these kids in college, and the college coaches are saying, man, if we could get these kids in high school, and the high school coaches are saying, man, if we get these kids in middle school, we can do some things. And then all of a sudden they're not doing PE, so we want to get them in elementary school. So bringing all your kind of experience together, a big kind of topic or question might be if Charlie Weingroff here is master of the movement universe, and you could start problems or fix problems or put humans on this pathway to maybe be injury-free as adults, or even just pain-free or better off, what might that be, and how might you go about that? That's
interesting question. Yeah. I mean, the quickest answer is move to Sweden or Finland. They seem to have it all figured out. It seems like every problem that we have in America, they don't have. So it's interesting.
So what are they doing different?
I don't know. I've only been there It's dark out, so I can't even see. No, hey, look, I don't. There's obviously something that they're doing, and I'm not so worldly to know. But I do think that if there was, some kind of opportunity to just be active, I think all of the, if you're asking me to be all social or whatever, or even political, all of the technological advances. It's interesting. I actually, when I start to answer a question, maybe some other things start to come to mind. Another good colleague of mine by the name of Thomas Myers, a tremendous manual therapist. He likes answering these questions. Sometimes you hear him speak for about the first 10 or 12 minutes of his talk, and it's like, yeah, you guys said it was okay to curse. It's like, what the fuck is he talking about?
There you go.
Because you're ready to hear something about anatomy trains and manual therapy and his version of what he's learned from Ida Rolf in terms of his manual therapy approach. And he's talking about like caveman and how we're the only animal that shows our genitals. And he's just talking about all this socialistic, sociology. It's all getting all crazy. Like people start looking at each other like, what the hell is he talking about? But he really starts to make some very interesting points where the technological advances of our current generation are happening faster than the human's ability to adapt. And when we look at some of the other eras of Earth, if you will, the advances in technology and the advances in engineering and machinery and electronics, etc., they happened over a much longer period of time, and the human body was able to adapt. Genetically, we were able to evolve, and these are Tom's, beliefs. And at worst, it makes sense. I mean, there's no way to really know these things until we go back and look into the record of things. But we see we don't die. Like we're not like dinosaurs or other types of organisms that we can actually dig up and see because our technology of medicine allows us to kind of beat some of these things of evolution. Like if we were slow and fat back in whenever, we would get eaten by a rhinoceros. Now, if we're slow and fat, we have cars and we have medicine that sustains us for a period of time. So any of these undesirable genetic profiles don't get eliminated from the gene pool. So we can't even go back and study it the way we can study other things. So going back to the answer to the question is, again, a lot of those answers are just reverse engineering. Like when you talk about not having recess, look, this isn't my bag. I'm only talking like to answer a question. It appears. Are there things that were done in the past, or are there things that are done in other countries that we're not doing that leads to decreased usage of healthcare and this and that? And again, it all just comes back to being physical and being active and having space and having time to go out and do these things. And obviously, a lot of that has to do with social strata, and it's a weird thing. It starts to become that black little box in the side of the room that no one likes to talk about. And I know I can give you a little anecdote. I grew up and I live now one town away from Toms River, New Jersey. It's one of the youth baseball capitals of our country. We have 3 high schools. Usually one is in the top 10. And if all 3 of us actually were together, because the town's big enough, we'd probably be the number 1 high school team in the country every single year. Well, is Toms River, downtown New York City? Is it Palo Alto? Is it Deer Park, no, but it's middle class. It's upper middle class. These are areas where families have the time to play with their kids. They have enough money for youth sports, and we wind up developing an enormous amount of Division I athletes from a town. And a lot of that case is true in all of New Jersey. For the 3rd smallest state, the amount of major Division I athletes that come out of New Jersey is staggering. Now, again, we have the most people per square area than any other state. But the fact is that as a whole, at least my perception is that it's a middle to upper middle class areas of where these great athletes are coming out of. And it's because there's a social strata that allows for people to have time and you have means. So it's fun to move around. It's fun to go play in a park. And it's more fun if you can afford to put a jungle gym in your backyard. And these are things, when you have that kind of social strata, it's probably not as dangerous, to go out. Like I know in my neighborhood, I see kids riding their bike all the time, and then, that doesn't mean they're not also playing video games, but I don't know, you can't be playing video games when you're riding your bike. So it's an interesting thing, and where these issues happen, and I'm really out of my league. I kind of enjoy sometimes, because obviously I do these podcasts quite a bit, when people ask questions that are not talk about the joint by joint theory. What's this mobility stability shit all about? So it's but I make no assertion that what I'm saying is in any way accurate, other than recounting my perception of Thomas Meyer's ridiculous 10 minutes of his presentations. But it's. Obviously, I mean, I think the answer, from when you don't know what you're talking about, you just go with Occam's razor. What's the correct answer is the easiest, and we just need to continue to have very active lifestyles that allow us to probably accomplish as many things at once.
Well, and I think the non-exercise based movement is really that seems to be kind of the linchpin for a lot of this, like you talked about riding your bike around as a kid and playing, and it's definitely a problem, and the role that you kind of fit in now. It's interesting that we kind of see the segue of practitioners, strength coaches, and then there's kind of this blurred line between the two, and we had this conversation with Donnie Thompson at the compound, and he said, in his opinion, the head strength coaches should be physical therapists, or vice versa. They should have that underlying knowledge, and they should also understand the strength coach side of things, because there's a lot of kind of back and forth between I'm an athletic trainer, I'm a strength coach, I'm a physical therapist, I do this, and you do that, and there's no crossover. So what's your opinion on that, having been in that situation where you've worked with pro teams, national teams, and seen it firsthand? What do you think about that hybrid role? Where does it fit?
I think you guys will probably know this. You've never heard me use that terminology. I'm not offended at all by it, but I don't think it's a hybrid. It's just what I do. I don't think of it as something unique. I developed a brand out of it, and I'm very blessed and happy that I can achieve a particular lifestyle because of it. But the bottom line is that it's just how I think. It's just what I do. I think on the first DVD back in 2009, I said that the last time I checked, the body the body is the same, whether you're a chiropractor, a trainer, a therapist, a coach. It's still a human body. And to think that any where you went to school or what your degree is changes, the human body is just, when you put it in those terms, the word ridiculous comes to mind. So I don't think I think everybody should have an awareness of just the basic principles of how the human body changes. If you would like to be better at athletics, that means you have to apply specific adaptations to impose demands. And you could substitute better at anything, and then you will answer that question with specific adaptations to impose demands. I think the where we went to school, or what we like to do, or what the logistics of our situation suggests, is simply what are the methods that we use a lot of. But it doesn't mean you don't know the other ones exist. It just means it's not what you do. So that's the issue, is that everyone kind of they like to do what they like to do, and they don't really want to win. They just want to do their shit. So if you're a strength coach, you just want to do strength and conditioning. Like, it's what you do. It's what you love. It's what you're great at. But to think that to create the solutions that relate to specific adaptations to impose demands are always from what you do well is just asinine. Like, how can that possibly be the case? You bring your car to a mechanic, and he specializes in brakes, and he finds out that, but he knows enough to say, hey, you know what? I don't even know what the hell's wrong with this car, but I know it's not the brakes because I know how to test those really, really well. What do you want? Like, do you want him to send you to a different mechanic, to go to a different facility, It sucks that you kind of have to drive across town and find the other place, but the goal is to win. And I think in our profession, particularly when it comes to athletics or some of the, those of us maybe we're not in organized athletics anymore, but we used to be, and we still think athletically, like it is so like we have egos, and we're not good at sports. We don't lift heavy shit if we don't have egos. But that ego is channeled into them being up front, and in my mind, the goal is to win. So I don't care who does it. I don't care who's the answer. So I don't look at it as hybrid. I just look at it like these are the skills that I do well, but I have no business not knowing everything. If the certified athletic trainer doesn't understand what the strength coach understands, and the strength coach doesn't understand the value of what the athletic trainer's skills can do, that means they both suck, and they're probably under an environment that has no leadership. So in my situations, I've been very lucky. Well, how is it that I've had all these great situations and they all seem to work out really cool, at least clinically? Well, it's because I can run my mouth a little bit. Like if you believe in what you guys call hybrid, and you can express it in different ways to different people, it seems normal. Like it's not so much of a stretch. Like I don't think it's this weird thing. Let's test the human body. What do we need to get better at? Where are our holes? Where are we good at? And let's apply the proper interventions to restore and improve qualities. I don't do that anymore. We don't do rehab and training. We restore, rehab, improve training qualities. And now who you are or what you do sometimes when someone does have point of view, and they seem to have, even it may not be really robust, but they get it, okay? But then they can't find these other individuals to work with. So then they wind up trying to do it themselves by finding some, I can't use these words, but find one of these jerk-offs, that puts a YouTube video on how to get more mobility, when in fact you should not be doing that. You should be referring them to someone who's verified, and let them put their hands on somebody and hand them back to you so you can do what you do well. Instead, people try to get their hands into things that they have no clue about, and you can't be good at it from watching a YouTube video. You can't be good at it from taking a 2-day seminar course. Now all of a sudden, I'm not sure. Obviously, I know of Donnie Thompson. Never met him. I've got nothing against him. No, I don't think people should be physical therapists and strength coaches. No. We just need to actually understand the human systems and understand the neurology and physiology of the different interventions that are available. Does this person need what I do well? No. Okay, he should go somewhere else. And hopefully you've charged enough money for that one time for them to get that brilliant expert advice. We just need to work together. I don't know everything. I don't. Maybe I know a little bit more. I'm not that smart. I might just know a lot. But that because I've been working in situations that put me into giving me resources to actually win. It becomes disgusting to see how miserable healthcare providers try to become strength and conditioning coaches, and vice versa. Strength coaches trying to get their head, like they're going to take months, if ever, to create a solution that a legitimate therapist could probably accomplish in 1 or 2 sessions, and then give you the ball to continue to run with it for motor skill acquisition or support of some of the qualities that they achieved in terms of mobility. So I'm not sure that's exactly what your guy was saying, and I don't mean to be antagonistic, but I don't think it's a hybrid. I don't think it's just it. What would you want? Like, what would you want for your grandmother? Like, you want her to have a team of doctors if she's sick. You don't want one person crossing over into other things. No, I only went to physical therapy school to become a better ATC. I didn't even know that I was going to be probably how I'm recognized now, and how I recognize myself is I'm just a strength and conditioning coach that knows how to deal with pain and serious dysfunction, because that's just the environments that I work in. It's how I see things. But now I realize that they're all the same. You just happen to put yourself in a situation at an entry level to then get a job that allows you to work 8 to 10 hours developing particular skills that live under one part of that spectrum. That doesn't make you a hybrid or anything like that. It means this is what you do, and you work on brakes, and you're going to be the most awesome brakes dude that's available. But don't worry that you're going to start to learn about the transition. But if you don't spend 8 to 10 hours, working on a transmission, then you know what? You're going to be a really garbage transmission guy, and that's what happens with these hybrid individuals. They suck. You can't be good at everything. It's impossible. We ask the people that we work with, come on, you got to put the time in. In 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to drop 10 pounds. But we're going to go to a 2-day course, and all of a sudden we know how to mess with mobility. This is just ridiculous. The goal is to have knowledge of the human systems, but you can't be able to intervene on every human system. Just because you're a physical therapist and you happen to lift weights, that doesn't make you, any different. Like, you're a hobbyist, like you're a voyeur. You're not the guy. I don't consider myself the guy. I refer out more than anybody I know, and I refer to physicians. In the Marine Corps, I can just order the MRI or the X-ray. I can't do that here. But it's a view that I think I contributed to several years ago. Again, the financial and social acclaim that it has gained me is not to be. I'm not complaining about that. But there's some things I didn't really sign up for, which is a lot of how that particular message, along with the message of others, has been grossly misinterpreted. And I'm glad I get opportunities like this to actually try to create some clarity. It's working with a team. It's not one person, wearing 3 hats. It's working with a team. And because you can't be good at possible. You can know about everything, but you can't be good at the interventions. That's not possible.
Well, very interesting, Charlie Weingroff. We could take a breath. That was great.
Hey gang, Coach Joe here to talk to you a little bit about Shoe Q. If you haven't listened to the show before, guys, you know I'm a weightlifter. I don't always run, but when I do, I run with my Shoe Qs in. Guys, Shoe Q, it's an insole with a heel plate built in. The heel plate has some ribs.
Rib for her pleasure. Ew.
And those ribs help turn the nerves in your feet back on and restore that feeling in your foot so you know when you're on your heels and what to do to get off of them quickly. The rib plate also encourages a midfoot strike, which properly utilizes and helps to rebuild the arch in your foot. And I'll tell you from personal experience, I don't always run. I do a lot more weightlifting, but I weightlift in my Shoe Q insoles because if you follow, I do a lot of heels off pulling. And why am I doing my heels off pulling? Because I'm trying to promote more midfoot activation when I'm breaking that barbell off the floor. I'm trying to be athletic. Guys, if you know anything about foot anatomy, all the goodies are in the front of the foot by the toesies, and in the back is just that fat pad. So wake up that fat pad, get off your fat pad, and figure out how to use that foot by using your Shoe Q today. And while you're there, guys, head over to shoeq.com to learn more. Brian McKenzie with a great video. Also, guys, check out @ShoeQ on Instagram. And if you get fired enough to purchase the product, which you should, use discount code JOCK10, JOCK10, to get 10% off your Shoe Q today. Let them know that Doc and Jock sent you. Let them know that Coach Joe said you can do more than just run in this Shoe Q. And guys, I'm telling you, I use it personally. Love the product, and I think you will too. Cheers and best wishes for your midfoot happiness, guys. Take care.
Fired up there. Really good. So no, opinions are awesome. Opinions are great. We love that. And I love the fact that you're like, this is what I do. I'm into this, and refer it out, stay within your scope. I think it's a pretty cool message. And I think that on that message, though, one of the cool things that you seem to be doing right now is trying to clear up some language that maybe would help these specialists on this team to help, facilitate the goal, to get people better, to win, as you said. So talk about this new language, what you want to do and develop these principles or these rules, and how these specialists can use better language to discuss these things between one another, to streamline this process, to go from that 2-day session with you, and then all of a sudden go win with the strength coach? How do they talk to each other?
I think if we think of things in terms of buckets, and everything begins with a very, very detailed and keen evaluation, and I think everyone should actually be doing the same evaluation. It probably won't extend as far if it gets into certain tunnels, but that's the goal, is to find the right tunnel. So, excuse me, there's probably a couple different series of buckets and tunnels that maybe I would talk about, but I think when it comes to human performance and what we do, I think the 4 buckets are movement, output, readiness, and sensory systems. So I think those are the tests. That's the evaluation is based on those 4 pieces. So that if we find a task that needs to be restored or improved, those solutions are going to exist in those 4 tunnels. Number 1, can the joints get into the right positions to absorb and adapt to stressors of that particular activity? So that would be the embodiment of the movement tunnel. So if you want to teach me how to do a hang clean, it's probably very important that I have a certain degree of elbow and wrist, elbow flexion and wrist extension. I use this example because I do not. I have very big arms, and my elbow, I cannot catch the bar. So you now have to make a decision on, are you going to continue this task of the hang clean, or are you going to send me to a therapist that can potentially create mobility changes in an elbow that has a very particular end feel? The end feel decision probably wouldn't be made by the fitness professional, but he should know that if my elbow can't get there, be able to teach me how to clean. So the first tunnel is movement. The second tunnel is output. So if I need to be able to clean 160 kilo, then there's tried and true techniques that can get me there. And now, how big is the battery in terms of output? And do I have the work capacity to get there in a particular period of time? I can do anything, but if I don't have a lot of work capacity, it'll simply take me longer, because the intelligent output training will require longer times of recovery. Now, again, the healthcare professional shouldn't be able to, may not be able to map out the program, and they're probably not going to be as good at somebody who spends 8 to 10 hours mapping out the program. But if they see that the individual has the joints to be able to get into the clean, so now the healthcare professional actually has to know how to do the clean and what are the joint requirements, mobility and stability, and then put it off to the next person. I mentioned that output is the overall size of your battery, but readiness is the battery that day. And who's going to measure readiness? Well, there's a lot of different individuals, but basically who's ever managing that particular training session. And if that training is technical and tactical, or if that training is general or special, we have to know that where this individual is in the recovery process. How are they adapting? How are they compensating to the things that you're asking them to do? Because the example that I often use is, if your cell phone had a 98%, you could use it very, very liberally. You could watch a movie and you could hang out and talk, and you'll still have enough charge to call Uber at the end of the night. If you had 44% on your phone, you might be less liberal. Maybe you text every single time, but you're not going to watch a movie, so you could make Uber at the end of the night. But if you only had 10% and you knew you just got to the club, you would probably turn your phone off and hope and pray that you had enough charge at the end of the night to make the call. That's how our human bodies work.
Well, then, not to interrupt you, but probably you'd concentrate more on the ladies than your texts too, right?
Yeah,
so you might have a little better night. So
you could very well do that. If you're that keen on understanding readiness, I don't know that you're that good at messing with the female. So, but like to think that we can just adapt and be successful at every ideal training scenario every single time out is ridiculous. So now, if we're looking at why my back hurts from doing training for the hang clean, the therapist is going to analyze what maybe my joints simply can't get into the right positions, and they're going to use an evaluation that way. My output can be tested. Maybe I took 2 weeks off so my back doesn't hurt anymore, but I do a vertical jump, which is fairly low learning curve, and I have a vertical jump of 34 inches. Well, I didn't hurt my back because the bar was too heavy, because I'm obviously pretty explosive. I can have a vertical jump of 32. But now maybe if we had actually measured readiness, we would have found that the days that we went for, 4 repetitions at over 87% was the day I came in on a red eye. Now, most people are going to have that kind of awareness, and that is a perfect example of measuring out readiness. We can be much more technological, we can be more or less specific, but the fact of the matter is that if we don't understand the cost, what it is that we do, and or modulate. I'm not even saying modulate. I'm not even saying do less. I'm saying sometimes you got to bring the heat. Maybe you didn't plan on Thursday being a max effort day, but you're going to bring it. And actually, we can go back to what we talked about before. Louis talks all the time. And obviously, there's reasons why those guys can do it. Maybe everybody else can't. But dynamic effort method, if you feel good, you keep going. And that's a cybernetic values of readiness. So maybe my injury happened because my physiological systems were adapting to that red-eye flight, and now you asked me to adapt to everything else. And that's why my back hurt, because then I changed motor strategies, or my body just simply became threatened because one of the 10 systems of the body became hyper compensated, and I overreached without even knowing. And this is a very dangerous thing in terms of injury prevention. It's probably more important than what the other stuff that seems a lot easier when people talk about joint position. And then lastly, the fourth tunnel is sensory systems. Sometimes shit's all fucked up. And if we don't even, if you don't measure these types of things for instance, we think, proprioception in rehab. Well, I've got news. The literature that's very, very solid would suggest that under 10%, sometimes as low as 6% of the time, are the proprioceptors, those specialized nerve endings, they're actually working perfectly. And there's other areas from where that proprioceptor picks up the stimulus all the way to the brain, including the brain, where the error is happening. So do we have some kind of model that actually monitors sensory systems? Do we understand what the cerebellum is doing in terms of when we lose our eyes and when we lose a hard surface? That's the only way to really test the cerebellum and isolate. And if we can do that, you might understand why this person constantly fails at a certain lift, because there's a system of the body that isn't delivering. So once you establish those 4 tunnels in terms of a common language, it starts with those 4 words: movement, output, readiness, and sensory systems. You see, I refrain from discussing the models that I use because they're not relevant. You can do anything.
Sure.
Bigger is better. The more keys on the key ring wins. But what do you do to measure, can the joints get into the right positions to absorb and adapt to stress? Number 2, what do you do to measure the power, strength, and endurance and work capacity of this individual under ideal circumstances and in movements with a very low learning curve? How do you measure readiness? Where are they of adapting? And sensory systems, all 5 sensory systems, all have a major role in how our body integrates information in terms of movement. So it's that's one way. I've got like 3 lines of them, but that's a good place to start, I think, in terms of evaluation. Because sometimes the solutions are like so easy, you're just not looking for them. And it's not because you're a bad person, you just didn't know. Now, if you know and you still don't do it, now you got some trouble. Now you're a clown. But that's like a high performance program is one that allows you to ask the questions you didn't know you had. And then when you ask the questions you didn't know you had, you find the solutions you didn't know you needed. And they left that part out when they let you into that rehab class as a strength coach. Unfortunately, they didn't discuss it that much. But the fact is that if you look at things in a complete fashion, the answers always reveal themselves. You just don't know they're there.
Well, let's talk readiness for a second, because I've heard you talk about using the omega wave before, and I've seen it used. I haven't used it much with my athletes, but I have seen it at some higher level facilities, both in the special operations and in some kind of boutique sports specific places. But for your average person, let's talk like in like a group fitness setting, like a high intensity training session, or anybody that's training multiple people, and they want to know, okay, how can I maybe do something quick with my athletes to find a baseline and to figure out, at what capacity do they have the day of their training session with that coach, that strength coach or personal trainer, or whatever it might be. What are some things that they might be able to do besides like hooking them up to this expensive equipment?
So I stand by what I said just a few minutes ago. The models that I use are not relevant. The concepts are. So Omega Wave is just one way to measure readiness, and just like any measure, it probably I think Omega Wave stands up. The best stuff usually has a lot of questions, and it usually takes a highly intelligent individual to create those kind of answers. So rather than so much talk about Omega Wave, how do you measure readiness? You have Omega Wave and some other things that fit into the technology. So Omega Wave is not the only technology that you can use. I happen to think it's the best because it's the most complete. But you have other ways to measure as well in terms of what we're looking for is, do I understand the cost of what I'm going to do? That when we look at this readiness concept, I think one of the things that people really misunderstand is like. And that's not what readiness or the things that I can discuss are telling you. It's trying to tell you, if you do this, this is what you should expect to happen. At which point, all of our tests are going to give us some version of readiness. If ways to maybe learn about what my body is not telling me, because my body can always like overtly and very loudly talk to me. Output. Readiness, it may not be so loud. It might be a very, very subtle message. So you have 5 categories in which you can test readiness. Number 1 is subjective. Hey, man, how you feeling today? Like that's as silly as that is. Maybe that person, that always feels great, and all of a sudden they're actually going to be honest. And maybe some things like some standardized questionnaires can be very, very useful. So now you're asked about a group setting. Well, every morning you set it up on Google. It's very easy to do. And every morning that email pops up. So you do a listserv. You can do whatever. Well, there's many ways to do this. I love how people say, well, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You're just stupid. You don't have to do it. So you set up a listserv. So that email shows up in that person's box every single day. And then they just touch their phone or they touch their iPad, and the answers come back. What's your mood, 1 to 5? How well did you sleep last night? All these basic questions. They don't create a solution, but they give you a reason to look. So if you were to base your entire program off of readiness, off of this daily questionnaire, you would set a cut point for what this person answers, and then you'll basically change your strategies. Maybe you thought it was going to be a low day, but this person's saying all 5s. And the more data you accumulate, you can be your own scientist and start to see, wow, like this really doesn't mean anything for Danny. But for Joe, it really means a lot. Like, because Danny just always puts 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. He really doesn't take it seriously. He's not what's called grounded to the questions. But somebody else who is being honest and like all over, you can create standard deviations, and you can see, okay, when this person's below this cut point, I probably need them to do a little bit less. Now, how you program that, well, if this is what you're going to use, any of the readiness models, you probably need to create a tertiary stratification to your programming, meaning everybody's doing the same thing, and this is what we did at MARSOC, based more off of movement than readiness, where there's a full go, then there's a yellow, and then there's a red. Meaning maybe it means the intensities, or they're going to sit out a set, things like that. So that's subjective. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, to stay on this kind of subjective test, if someone, like for me, like I'm not grounded in the question 4 4 4 4 4. When you come across an athlete like that, and do you go through any motivational? I mean, just judging by how passionate you are about what you're delivering to us here in this conversation, how do you communicate with these athletes? Yo, guys, take this seriously. I mean, or how do you manage athletes who aren't grounded in the training?
the situations that I've been in where we've had the most success, it's not me doing it; it's the head coach that does it. So, it's so strange. It's like of all the things that I'm like I suck at, it seems like these situations are like I don't have these problems. So now that being said, I answered your question. I still have players that don't do it, or they're not ground. There's a player that just put fives, five, and then one day he put 4 under mood. So so obviously we cannot create any meaningful information off of his daily wellness questionnaire. But he did pick a 4 one day. So I go up to him. I said, Jay, what's up, man? He's like, yo, what's up, Chuck Wagon? And I said, you doing okay? He's like, yeah, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, you put 4 on your mood. Like, that's a lot for you. That's like a 20% decrease. Like, you doing okay? He's like, dude, I didn't put 4. I put 5 every day, and you know that. I said, and I showed him the data that he's like, you actually look at that shit. And I said, yes, I look at it every single day. I'm always here when you need me. It worked perfectly because I was able to create a connection using that for someone who clearly didn't have the same value that I had or the organization had for this very low cost version of readiness. It created an incredible opportunity to create a connection, which is really what we're after with a lot of these methods. So it's all communication. We talked recently with another group of individuals. We talk about IQ. Well, lots of people are smart, but not everybody has EQ, emotional quotient. And how do you talk to people? And how do you just I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't love the word passionate because to me it reminds me of like soft porn of when you had a cable box and you could hear it perfectly, but you couldn't see anything. But like to me, like if I'm going to take whatever kind of time that it is to do this, and you have all these people listening, God damn it, they're going to remember. Like they're going to know. Like they may not like what I'm saying, and I don't really. It's not that important to me. But like I'm saying things in a particular way so that you remember, and maybe I'm going to get to somebody and really help them be better. And that's emotional quotient. Trust me, I don't talk the same way to everybody, and I don't even think about it when I'm doing it. I don't even know what I'm doing, and I think these. When you see these people because I want to be that great leader. So I'm going to figure. I can't answer you. I don't know exactly what I would do. I'll let you know after I do it. And we'll see how it goes. And that's and a lot of that is just being lucky enough to be in a lot of situations where you get a chance to be an influencer or a leader. So I don't know those answers. I don't think anybody does. You look at the great leaders of our time. Some of the as we know, the more than one of us on this call has had to been in those situations where we have required leadership. And I don't think they always know. You can take a course. But you don't know what the hell everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the face, Mike Tyson. How do you do all that? I don't know, but I'll let you know when I'm done, and we'll see how the outcome was. If it's up to me again, but maybe I would do it again for a different person that has different affect, and et cetera. And that's all what we try to learn about emotional quotient.
Well, from a readiness standpoint, I mean, I think that's really a missing link for a lot of people, and so anyway, I hope that people take this, and apply it, because we can listen to it, but execution of it is a whole different thing, right? And there's some really smart coaches out there that will start to apply this in a group setting, and as hard as that is to coach that, it's totally feasible, and we see a lot of good compliance with it as well. I had a question for you. In your opinion, do you think that kettlebell training is a good variation for somebody to use to get strong, or do you think it's better in terms of just purely conditioning?
It depends in general population. Absolutely, is probably the in my experience the best in terms of how quickly people manage good form and the qualities that they can develop. In terms of kettlebells. Now, if I'm looking for certain levels of maximum strength, I don't know how. It depends on the situation. If I believe that to be an offensive lineman, I have to have a particular amount of strength. Here's the problem. I need a 500-pound squat because most offensive linemen put a bar on their back and squat. The reason that you can it's more force production than that's of value than how much you can quote unquote squat. So I don't know what the data is, but I do know that when you're carrying a kettlebell versus a bar on your back or even in the front rack, the center of mass of the load is further away from your base of support. So you're not going to be able to carry as much external load, but you might very well be able to create even more force than with a static load. And that is, I am familiar with some data that demonstrates that for a competent, legitimate kettlebell swing, not throwing that thing over your head, that's ridiculous, a legitimate kettlebell swing, you can hit a 200-pound man using a 24-kilo kettlebell, which is roughly 25% of their weight, can create upwards of 800 pounds on a force plate. So the force plate's not lying. Like, that doesn't mean you can deadlift 800 pounds. There's other qualities required in terms of grip and then how you can balance your body to be able to rip 800 pounds off the ground. Do I care if you can lift 800 pounds off the ground, or do I care if you can generate 800 pounds into the ground? And now the cost of swinging a 24-kilo kettlebell versus an 800-pound deadlift, there is no conversation anymore. So I think it just depends on how you look at things. Do you have to use kettlebells? No. Do you have to have barbells? No. The goal is to win. And if you understand yes, it's very true that you can't lift as much external load based on what the kettlebell is because it's farther away from your center, your base of support. When you put a bar on your back, it's right in the middle of your body. Your stanchion, your skeleton, your you is what's holding the bar up, plus all of your dynamic restraints. So if you can back squat 4 wheels, maybe you can only front squat 335. Well, if I divide 335 by 2, now I've got what? I have 170 pounds in each hand. No one can do that anymore. There is no double 170-pound kettlebell front squat. So, but now if I can do a double 40-kilo, double, that's 88 pounds in each hand. Maybe I can generate the same amount of force as my 400-pound back squat. Do I want 400 pounds on my body, or do I want 160 pounds on my body to create 400 pounds of force? So, can you get strong? Yeah, until you can't get strong anymore. Just test. And what are your measures of test? If you're so in love with the barbell tests, and you believe that those are going to yield you the answers to your training solutions, then of course you must use a barbell. But just because you can't lift as much weight doesn't mean you're not getting strong. There's a difference, and that's unfortunately probably a short-sighted or erroneous suggestion. It's just you can do anything with anything. Try doing a bottoms-up kettlebell press. You're not going to get strong. I mean, this is really people that probably haven't exposed themselves to proper kettlebell training. That being said, I put a bar on my back today. It's not there's no right or wrong. But to say one is wrong, I don't really understand that.
So it's interesting you're bringing up like using the kettlebell as a test to for athletic performance and whatnot. So we talk to a lot of CrossFitters on this podcast, and they listen to the show. So interesting to me is your thoughts on general where all of a sudden these exercises that at one point were tests to build you up, for your sport now have become a sport in themselves. So your general thoughts on all of a sudden where a strength and conditioning program all of a sudden is the sport, and your general thoughts on that movement.
I think it's cool. Like if I was 22 again, I'd probably be destroying everybody. You phrased it the right way to get a good answer. Like you compete. There's rules. There's expectations. and it's actually a very, very exciting way to train, because it's actually impossible to use the competitive nature of making your training into a sport. It's impossible to do that, and to train that way, you have to be very, very intelligent and balance the different things that you do in training in order to show up to that dance and have a successful performance, as well as maximize your return on investment of your training. So I think that's fun. I think that's cool. Like it's maybe not what, I don't know that everyone should do it, but I don't, the way you say it, dude, I have no, like, what do I think of making a training session into an organized sport? Okay, that doesn't really offend me. Everything else that comes along with it, I think we could probably have a different conversation, but that's you can't. But I remember what I said, that you cannot train the same way you compete for a number of reasons, in terms of physiological interference as well as psychological overload. The moment that something's a competition, the cost of your training changes. So that's. But I think that's cool. I'm pretty sure I would be doing it if I was at a different point in my life.
So I got a follow up on that. Does that mean in like some dark corner of your facilities you're practicing your kip and pull ups?
No. I value the joints of my body, and as a 190-pound dude, that I'm pretty good. I can probably still do more regular pull ups than your silly salamander pull ups. So it's. No, there's none of that. And I actually, what's the one, like, one of the things that I'm greatly offended by is the exploitation of females by naming these programs after females. Like, you're a bad person, you're a punk if you can't do Sally or some shit like that. That greatly offends me. Yeah, I got news. Like, doing a clean with 95 pounds, like, isn't really that heavy, So I tried that once and I just stopped. It was silly. No, I wasn't. I did that right out in the middle of the gym, not in a dark corner. So you guys pulled the string on that one. So I probably said more than what I should have.
No, it's perfect. It's a polarizing polarizing topic, and
I don't hate it. There's things. We just did an internal. So I won't tell you exactly what I said, but it was part of one of the major shoe brands that I am contracted by as a consultant. Put it that way. What's your opinion on the topic that we're talking about? I'm like, I don't hate it. I don't like. There's certain things about it that I think are disgusting, but I don't know that everybody embodies those disgusting things.
Well, I think
it's high intensity interval training in a concurrent fashion. Like, nobody made that up. In fact, maybe Arthur Jones made that up in 1975. I mean, it's nothing odd. There's nothing special about it. You're training, all different spectrums of the force velocity and metabolic demand, and you're trying to do it as fast as you can. Just use good form. I think it's a pretty stupid way to develop an athlete, because you won't. But it's actually the number one scientifically proven way to burn body fat. There's lots of good things.
Or I think we'll agree on too, and you made a good point, and that was that we'll talk about. There's a big difference anymore between maybe CrossFit, the original thought behind it, and then the sport of fitness that's developed. And I think the big takeaway from that I appreciated was you cannot train every day like you compete. And I think that's a message that we've tried to bring to the CrossFit community, to guys, every day can't be game day. You gotta there's lots of demands there. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Well, Charlie, there's so much that we've heard you talk about, and I know there's some coaches out there that they'll be itching to kind of try to find out more, and you've got some really some good DVDs out there. I'm getting through lateralizations and regressions right now, and the Perform Better stuff that you're doing. Give our listeners an idea of, if they want to learn some more in-depth information to kind of help them as a coach, where they can find out some more about products you have, and courses or speaking things that you're going to have going on over the summer.
Yeah, well, I have multiple DVDs. The two main ones, the one which you referenced, was Train Equals Rehab, and then Train Equals Rehab 2, Lateralizations and Regressions. And I'd say the first one is maybe slowly chipping away. Maybe it's about, I used to say 85% contemporary. It's probably a little bit less now because that's from 2009. But to still, I think as particularly somebody who's not familiar with a lot of the things that I represent, that's probably a good place to start because there's a story that's told. The second DVD kind of filled in. I felt like I wasn't going to do another big DVD until I had enough information from my own exposures to be able to share a new message. So those two DVDs you can get them at charlieweingroff.com or T=R.com, T=R2, T=R2.com is where you can get lateralizations and regressions. And given the schedule with the Olympics, with Canada basketball, I don't have anything scheduled personally for the summer other than the Perform Better Functional Training Summits, where I'll be at Orlando, Providence, and as of now, I'm scheduled for Long Beach, but depending on what happens in Rio, that may or may not be confirmed. So then I'm sure in the fall, when people are interested in hearing me run my mouth, then we'll have a good time at it, and hopefully we can help people get better with my seminar series.
No, this was a fired up chat. We appreciate your insight and all this. It's a different message that we've gotten. We've been dealing with folks who say, "Hey, get out there and learn a little bit." So it's great to have a guy come in here with a different opinion and a strong voice saying, "Hey, specialize and get around a team of specialists that can do certain things." So we appreciate that. And Danny, I think that's one way to prove that if you have a body,
You're an athlete. What's up, guys? Doc Danny here with the Doc and Jock podcast. And when you get a chance, head over to mobilitywod.com. You can get 2 free months of programming and subscription to Mobility Wod Pro by using the code Doc and Jock when you sign up for a yearly subscription. This is a pretty cool service. They've got daily mobility wads that are programmed. They have case studies where they look at specific issues like, hey, maybe why you're having shoulder pain and how to deal with that. They even have webinars in specific areas like the lower back or the ankle. This is a super helpful resource for yourself if you're an athlete, or if you're a coach, you can't go wrong with this. Save 2 months, use the code Doc and Jock, no spaces, and enjoy the information.
Thank you so much, gang, for tuning into today's episode of the Doc and Jock podcast. We hope you're enjoying the topic of the day or the interview. If you are, please head on over to iTunes and review it and let us know so we can either talk about that topic again or bring that guest back on. Also, guys, while you're at it, post a question, and then Dr. Danny and I can tackle that question on a Friday short. The topic could be mobility, weightlifting, motivation, anything in between. Dr. Danny and I will tackle that. It's a great service to us, a great service to you. You get some knowledge, we get a bump in the standings, and we really appreciate that. Also, guys, we'd appreciate your support on all the social media outlets. Check out at Doc and Jock on Instagram and at Doc and Jock on the Twitter feed. Also, guys, like, share the Facebook page, and visit www.docandjock.com. You'll notice, guys, we're in the middle of a rebrand. We've changed the badge, we've changed the logo, we are overhauling the website, and we'd love to know your thoughts on that. Thank you, guys, for tuning into the Doc and Jock podcast, and remember, if you have a body, you are an athlete.